Why is there a black kid touching my registration table? Call security now. Sir, I'm here to compete. Compete. The professor's Rolex glinted as he grabbed the boy's collar. Listen carefully, ghetto rat. Your kind doesn't compete. Your kind cleans the floors after we leave. I scored highest in qualifiers, sir. You. He snatched the boy's tattered notebook, ripped out a page. What filth is this? Caldwell Morrison. His voice thundered. Everyone, this poor little black boy from the slums says he'll solve what genius professors debated for 32 years. Laughter erupted. Hundreds of wealthy white faces, all mocking one small black child. A black schoolboy said he'd solved the problem professors debated for decades. Everyone thought it was a joke. Everyone was wrong. 4 months earlier, Lincoln Park Elementary School, Southside Chicago. The classroom smelled like old books and broken dreams. Cracked windows letting in cold air. Peeling paint revealing older, uglier paint beneath. Desks carved with generations of bored frustration. 28 students learning multiplication tables. One student doing something else entirely. Preston Davis sat in the front row. Not by choice. His eyesight wasn't great, and his grandmother couldn't afford glasses. He was the smallest kid in 5th grade, 10 years old. Wearing clothes 2 sizes too big, hand-me-downs from his cousin TJ. While other kids struggled with 7*8, Preston was filling a worn notebook with equations that didn't belong in any elementary school. His pencil moved fast, numbers and symbols flowing like water. Preston Davis, what are you doing? He looked up at his teacher, Mrs. Patterson. Tired eyes, good heart. No idea what to do with him. Math, ma'am. She leaned over his shoulder, her face twisted with confusion. This isn't 5th grade math, Preston. No, ma'am. This is about lower bounds in network optimization. I'm trying to understand why Dr. Caldwell and Dr. Morrison keep arguing about it. Mrs. Patterson blinked. She had a master's degree in education. She had no idea what this child was talking about. Preston, where did you even learn about this? The library. Ma'am, they have lots of books. She stared at him for a long moment, then sighed, walked away. What else could she do? Let me tell you about the Caldwell-Morrison debate. In 1993, a young professor named Richard Caldwell published a theory that shook the mathematics world. He claimed he'd discovered an absolute limit in network optimization, a boundary that couldn't be crossed, a floor that couldn't be broken. The paper was brilliant, revolutionary, and completely unproven. Dr. Eleanor Morrison at Stanford disagreed loudly, publicly. She believed no such limit existed. The mathematics, she argued, allowed for infinite optimization. What started as academic disagreement became intellectual war. 32 years of conferences, thousands of pages of papers, hundreds of mathematicians taking sides. The field split down the middle like a cracked mirror. Caldwell versus Morrison. Neither could prove they were right. Neither would admit they might be wrong. The debate consumed careers, destroyed friendships, became the most famous unsolved argument in modern mathematics. Dr. Morrison died in 2019, still fighting, still unvindicated. And in a public library on the south side of Chicago, an 8-year-old boy found a dusty book about this very debate. Preston didn't understand why 2 smart adults would fight for decades without finding the answer, so he decided to find it himself. Preston's apartment. Evening 2 years before the competition. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen and living room squeezed together like reluctant roommates, but it was clean. Ruby Davis made sure of that. Ruby was 71 years old, retired postal worker, raising her grandson alone since his mother passed from cancer and his father went to prison for armed robbery. She found Preston on the living room floor. Library books stacked around him like a fortress. College textbooks, graduate-level mathematics, notebooks filled with equations. She brought him dinner, sat down beside him with a groan. Her knees weren't what they used to be. Baby, you need to eat something. Preston didn't look up. Grandma, why do grown-ups like fighting more than finding answers? Ruby smiled, stroked his head. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe winning matters more to them than truth. But that's stupid. Truth doesn't care who wins. You're right, baby. But not everyone thinks like you do. She didn't understand a single equation in those notebooks. Never would. But she understood her grandson, and she knew deep in her bones that he was special. Now let me tell you about Dr. Richard Caldwell. 64 years old, full professor at Northwestern University. Multiple awards, buildings named after him, 40 years in mathematics. He'd spent 32 of those years defending a theory he couldn't prove. The Caldwell conjecture, his legacy, his obsession, his identity. Every few years, someone would try to solve it. Every time they'd fail, and every time Caldwell would smile that superior smile, because as long as no one solved it, no one proved him wrong. But there was something else about Richard Caldwell, something darker. In 40 years of teaching, he'd never had a black graduate student, never cited a black mathematician, never acknowledged that brilliance could come from those schools or those neighborhoods. His prejudice wasn't loud. It was quiet, casual, woven into every assumption, the most dangerous kind. He didn't actively hate black people. He simply didn't believe they could matter. CES Regional Qualifiers. Illinois Young Mathematicians Open. 3 weeks before the finals, Preston walked into the testing room. Superhero backpack, too big shirt, 10 years old. Every other competitor was a teenager, 14, 16, 18. They stared at him. Is that kid lost? Someone's little brother, probably. Does he even know where he is? Preston found his seat. The desk was too tall. He had to sit on 2 thick books just to see the test paper. 2 hours later, the results came in. Preston Davis, perfect score, highest in the region, highest in the history of the competition. A 10-year-old black boy from the South Side had just qualified for the state championship. Local news ran a small story. They called it heartwarming. They mispronounced his school's name. They had no idea what was coming. But someone was paying attention. Dr. Richard Caldwell reviewed the qualifier results. His pen stopped on one name. Lincoln Park Elementary. An elementary school student had qualified, a black student from the ghetto. Caldwell picked up his phone. Who approved this entry? Sir, he met all requirements. Highest score. I don't care about scores. This is a serious competition. But the rules were clear. Preston Davis had qualified, and in 3 days he would walk into Richard Caldwell's territory. What happens when a child from the ghetto meets the most powerful mathematician in Illinois? Registration Day. Northwestern University. Kresge Centennial Hall. The building screamed money. Marble floors polished to mirrors. Crystal chandeliers throwing rainbow light. Portraits of old white men staring down from every wall. Donors, founders, masters of the universe. Preston arrived with his grandmother Ruby and his cousin TJ. TJ was 16, big for his age, protective of his little cousin. He'd been skeptical of this whole competition thing until he watched Preston solve problems that made high schoolers cry. Now he was a true believer. Stay close to me, Ruby whispered. She held Preston's hand tight. The lobby was packed with competitors, prep school blazers, designer clothes, parents talking about summer homes, coaches with tablets and strategy folders, and one small black boy in a shirt that used to belong to his cousin. Everyone stared. Is that child in the right building? Someone should call his parents. This must be a mistake. TJ's fists clenched. Ruby squeezed his arm hard. Not here, she whispered. Let Preston handle this. Text Preston approached the registration table alone. Dr. Richard Caldwell was personally overseeing registration, unusual for a professor of his stature, but he'd heard about the ghetto kid and wanted to see for himself. He looked down, way down, at the small boy standing before him. Are you lost, son? No, sir. I'm here to register. Preston Davis.
Here.
Caldwell's eyes narrowed. You're the one from Lincoln Park. Yes, sir. How old are you? 10, sir. Caldwell leaned back. A smile played on his lips. The kind of smile a cat gives a mouse. Son, this competition is for serious mathematics students. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at a spelling bee. Something more appropriate for your background. I qualified with the highest score, sir. I'd like to register, please. Something flickered in Caldwell's eyes. Irritation, then curiosity. He processed the registration, But as he handed back the forms, Preston's notebook fell from his backpack. Caldwell picked it up, opened it. His face changed. "What is this?"
Here.
"My notebook, sir." "I can see that." Caldwell flipped through pages. His expression darkened. "Why are you writing about Caldwell Morrison?" "I'm working on it, sir." "Working on it?" Preston nodded, completely sincere. "Yes, sir. I'm solving it." Dead silence. Then Caldwell laughed. Loud, harsh, cruel. Did everyone hear that? He held up the notebook. "This little black boy from the slums thinks he's going to solve the problem that genius professors have debated for 32 years. Laughter rippled through the hall, then spread, then exploded. Hundreds of people laughing at one small child. Victoria Ashford, 17, covered her mouth and giggled. Derek Mills, 18, Caldwell's star student, shook his head with theatrical pity. Caldwell patted Preston's head like a dog who'd done a trick. "That's adorable, son. Truly adorable. But maybe focus on learning your times tables first." More laughter. Ruby and TJ watched from across the hall. TJ started forward. Ruby grabbed his arm tight enough to bruise. "No," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Preston stood frozen, surrounded by laughing adults, his notebook in a stranger's hand. But he didn't cry. Another professor called out, "Hey kid, if you're so smart, who's right? Caldwell or Morrison?" Everyone waited, ready to laugh again. Preston looked directly at Dr. Caldwell. His voice was small but clear. "Dr. Caldwell is right, sir. The lower bound exists." Caldwell blinked. The boy was supporting his theory, and I can prove it. One heartbeat of silence, then the loudest laughter yet. Preston picked up his notebook, walked back to his grandmother. TJ grabbed his shoulders. "You okay, little man?" Preston looked up. His eyes weren't sad. They were burning.
Here.
"I'm going to show them, TJ. Every single one." Ruby knelt down, cupped his face in her worn hands. "I know, baby. Grandma knows."